If you're thinking about moving somewhere along the northern Oregon coast, but you're not familiar with all the towns, this video is for you. I'm going to give you a quick overview of all the towns along the northern Oregon coast and kind of show you how they differ from some of the other towns along the northern Oregon coast, but also the central and the southern Oregon coast. All that starts now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new to this channel, living on the Oregon coast and you'd like to know more about what it's like to live on the Oregon coast, make sure and hit the subscribe button and tap the bell. That way you'll be notified every time we drop a new video, which is every week. And if you're somebody that's thinking about moving here, as licensed brokers in the state of Oregon, as much as we love making these videos, we'd also like to help you move here. So if you're thinking about taking the next steps, you can call us, text us, email us, or click the link below in the description if you want to schedule a Zoom with us. No matter how you get in touch with us, we've got your back when it comes to moving to the Oregon coast. First of all, what is the northern Oregon coast? How do you break that down? If you look online, there's going to be a couple different ways that people break that down. I've seen people go as far down as considering Florence to be the cutoff for the northern Oregon coast. I'm going to cut it off right around here, right around Tillamook. So we're going to go about Astoria to Tillamook today. And that's probably about what most people are going to consider the northern Oregon coast. Coos Bay and down is kind of southern Oregon coast. So Coos Bay to somewhere around here. You could maybe look at Lincoln City, but we'll save that for another time. All right, so we're going to start north to south first here, starting with Astoria. Astoria, as you can see, is right at the mouth of the Columbia River. It's the oldest American settlement west of the Rockies, so there's a lot of history here in Astoria. Astoria's got, it's known for kind of the Victorian architecture, a lot of Victorian homes, a lot of older homes built in the early 1900s here. So you're going to find, as you can see on the map right here, a lot of the population is going to be condensed all right here along this, and this is a pretty big hill. I'll give you some aerial footage you can't quite see from the map, but you've got a large hill that all these homes are set on, and the downtown is kind of all along the 101 here. You've got the Riverwalk. If you ever do come to Astoria, you haven't visited before, definitely take a walk along the Riverwalk. You've got the hospital right here. So this is a major hospital if you need to be close by to a hospital. If you're wondering where the Goonies house was, it is over here. And then you've just got a lot of restaurants and commercial space all along the riverfront right here. Now, aside from this over here, you do have some residential and some businesses over here. It's listed as Jeffers Garden, but this is all considered Astoria. People that live here consider Astoria. All the addresses you're going to see, if you just pick a kind of any random business, you're going to see is listed as Astoria. So you do have some things over here on the other side of Young's Bay. And another spot to visit too, the Astoria Column. Definitely check out the column if you come here. That'll give you kind of one of the best views of the entire of the town. Give you a good idea of what you're going to see from up there. The average home prices in Astoria right now, at the beginning of 2023, around $520,000. That's up about 18% year over year. So going south now along the 101, this is going to be really your best shopping on the entire Oregon coast, not just the northern Oregon coast. You have Fred Meyer right here. If you're not familiar with Fred Meyer, which Fred Meyer is kind of local to the Pacific Northwest, it's very similar to a Walmart. You do also have a Walmart right down here, and then you have a Costco, the only Costco along the Oregon coast, and then a Home Depot, and then there's a bunch of other stuff along these two strip malls right here. So if shopping is important to you, it's not going to get any better than this stretch right here. That takes us to the town of Warrenton. Warrenton's going to be a lot smaller. Warrenton doesn't get kind of the tourism or the traffic that Astoria does. Downtown is really small. You know, a couple of different stoplights type of thing. Other than that, you do have a lot of the residential areas sort of spread out along this entire area. In fact, Warrenton has 2 zip codes, And the second zip code goes all the way down to right about here, stretches all the way down here past this place called Surf Pines. Now, the average home values in Warrenton are actually a little bit higher, technically, than Astoria. Right now, it sits as $534,000. But that probably doesn't paint a totally accurate picture. Now, if you compare these homes kind of around the downtown, around Warrenton, to any of the homes and kind of in Astoria over here around the hill, around the downtown, Astoria is actually going to be a little bit more expensive. Reason being that Warrenton might average a little bit higher. Even though these homes are going to be less expensive, you will find a fair amount of homes that are on larger lots, that are larger homes. Quite a few actually multi-million-dollar homes in these areas right here that are kind of propping up the averages. So if you're looking online, you see the average value of homes in Warrenton is a little bit higher than Astoria. It's not going to quite paint the full picture. The homes around the downtown are going to be less. But if you include all of this area, you can see there's a lot of new construction going along here as well. That's what kind of props up that home value. And actually, homes in this area are tending to be 6, 7, 800,000 and up. There just doesn't tend to be a ton of sales to include in that average. So those averages are really going to vary depending on what the sales are like, kind of more down south in this area. One great thing about Warrenton, you have Fort Stevens State Park, probably one of the better, if not the best, state parks along the Oregon coast. One popular spot destination here is the wreck of Peter Iredale. It's actually in the news recently. Had a couple of whales that washed up on shore here. One of them was actually 40 feet, so that doesn't happen too often, so it was a little bit of an event. We haven't gotten over there to check it out yet, but thinking we might take the kids over there to check it out. And then this park right here, if you do want to stay in Fort Stevens State Park, there's a ton of different places to stay, handful of different campgrounds in here. You can get away with as cheap as maybe 10 or 15 bucks a night if you just want to grab a parking spot and pitch a tent. Do you also have a lot of history in here? This is where a lot of the fort is. West Battery right here. Usually this stuff doesn't have too much traffic, so kind of like you see right here, you kind of check out some of this old stuff. You're usually not going to see too many people. And you got the visitor center right here. So something to check out if you want to kind of do the touristy stuff when you're in Warrenton. But the state park itself, as you can see, is huge. You can actually drive this entire stretch of beach all the way up to the jetty right here. And you can actually access the beach over here as well off of Jetty Road. You can probably drive this entire thing. You're just going to get stuck right here. And then as far as driving up north right here, there's actually no outlet. You'd have to come back down to Delara Dune right here to get back to Jetty Road. But you can drive this entire stretch all the way down to Gearhart. So if you like driving the beach and exploring a little bit, this is a great place to do it. This is probably one of the might be the longest actually stretches of beach along the entire Oregon coast. And that's really the big thing that's going to differentiate the northern Oregon coast from the southern Oregon coast. You're going to find a lot of sandy beach along the northern Oregon coast, whereas you go to the southern Oregon coast, which is beautiful, like the Samuel H. Boardman State Scenic Corridor, one of the most beautiful, most scenic places in all of Oregon. You're going to get a lot more of this stuff, right? A lot more elevation, a lot more dramatic rock formations. So if you're somebody that wants more elevation, you're going to find that more central to south. If you want more sandy beaches, you're going to have a lot more options up here in the north. All right, moving north, down south here. Sunset Beach, Surf Pines, these are two unincorporated areas. They're just residential areas. The next town over is Gearhart. It is really small, similar to Warrenton, in that this is kind of the downtown right here. It's kind of like those one stoplight town type of towns. Fire department right there. They do have some events. They have a good little 4th of July parade that they do every year with the fire truck and the fire department throwing candy to kids, and there's a little parade and stuff like that. Warrenton also, probably the notable thing about Warrenton, you do have the McMinimans golf course here, which is, aside from a golf course, they have lodging, so it's a hotel as well. The pro shop is right here, and then there's a restaurant in here as well too. Do have a little strip mall on the other side of the 101 in Gearhart, but that's pretty much it for Gearhart. Other than that, it's just houses, some condos. Your average home prices in Gearhart are going to be a little bit higher, closer to $700,000. So this is that area that we kind of took a look at here in the beginning, comparing home values with Warrenton and Astoria, some of these homes down here can be very expensive, kind of along that border from Surf Pines to Gearhart. So that's why the price is going to be higher on average. You're going to find a fair amount of seven-figure homes in there. So average homes in Gearhart, 700,000. A lot of newer construction in here as well. Like I mentioned, in Astoria, you find a lot of houses that were built in the early 1900s. A lot of houses in Gearhart built in the last couple of decades here, and still building now. Now, as far as driving along the beach, your southern access is the most southern access point is going to be right here. So you cannot drive past this access point. So you don't see any cars kind of here beyond here. Although people do attempt it occasionally. Somebody did last week. And it wasn't even a four-wheel drive vehicle from what I could see. It was like an economy car, and they got stuck right about here at the Nicanacum River. So not going to be driving any further south than that, but that's a big stretch if you like to drive the coast. All right, taking us down into Seaside. So this area is going to have quite a bit more compared to like a Warrenton or a Gearhart. Seaside was originally developed as a resort town, which makes it a little bit unique. A lot of towns along the Oregon coast were sort of built on the back of an industry, logging and fishing and things like that. So everything kind of revolves around the industry, whereas Seaside, being more of a resort town, has a little bit of a different vibe. I'm definitely going to want to go to Broadway and drive around here to this turnaround and maybe possibly even walk the promenade right here, which goes a couple of miles. You can see right here, you can see the people from above. This is about as crowded as you will find any beach along the Oregon coast. Next to this, maybe Cannon Beach. So for all you people in California, this in Oregon is what crowded looks like. The rest of our beaches look a lot like this. You just don't see too many people. So Seaside is a really popular town. One reason why it is so popular along with Cannon Beach is if you look at how people are coming here, Highway 26 is directly west of Portland. So when people go to the coast from Portland, they're taking this Highway 26 or sometimes going down south towards Tillamook and then Pacific City and Lincoln City. But most people taking 26 and going to Seaside and Cannon Beach. So for that reason, it does tend to get pretty congested here. If it's not the off season, you're usually going to find bumper-to-bumper traffic kind of from right here all the way up until right about there once you cross the Nicanacum and start getting into Gearhart. Now, it does move pretty quick, so it's not like you're just sitting there and bumper to bumper, but it is a lot of bumper to bumper along that way. One thing about Seaside, too, if you are worried about tsunamis, it is probably one of the worst places to be along the Oregon coast. There's no elevation along here. They actually just moved the high school. The high school used to be right here, but they moved it back up here because you have enough elevation to be outside of the tsunami. Now, there are houses along here that set back up in the hills if you do want to avoid being in a tsunami zone. But definitely Seaside is going to be one of the more vulnerable places along the Oregon coast if you're worried about tsunamis. That being said, it's a great town. There's a lot to do there. The outlets are a thing that draw a lot of people to Seaside as well. It's one of the two places that you have outlet malls along the Oregon coast, Lincoln City being the other one. You also have a great volleyball tournament that takes place here every year. The Hood to Coast, which is the longest walking, jogging relay in the world, starts on Mount Hood and ends right here. So a handful of events, big events that take place every year in Seaside that draw a lot of people in. They've got a car show, and there's a lot of events that take place in the summer. They do have a farmer's market. It is over here on the other side of 101. But Seaside is definitely one of the more popular towns for people in Oregon and people in Portland to visit. And that's kept the home values relatively high. The average home values here right now as it stands, $545,000. That average, again, probably doesn't quite tell the whole story. Homes over here, like on the east side of the 101, unless it's like some of the new construction, like I mentioned back up in the hills, these homes are probably going to be well under $500,000, maybe under $400,000, whereas anything over here, especially if it qualifies for a vacation rental, is going to be minimum like kind of $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. If you do find a bigger house, which there's not a ton of bigger properties along here, you can easily break seven figures in there. So that's what you're looking at for Seaside. One cool thing about Seaside, and when you're in this area, anytime you look south along the coast here, you're going to see Tillamook Head. This is a really prominent sort of geographical feature that's kind of always in the background looking south. And one really cool thing about this, you can actually walk, or hike rather, Tillamook Head Trail right here. Trailhead starts there and will actually take you all the way down into Cannon Beach. And as you can kind of see, there's a bunch of trails that go along here through Tillamook Head. Now, definitely, if you're going to be hiking one of these trails, check conditions before you go, because they can definitely vary with the weather. But if you're a big hiker, this might be a big draw for you. Oops. Tillamook Head right here. So that takes us down into Cannon Beach. One thing to note about Cannon Beach, you see the 101 goes through Seaside, comes to the east side of Tillamook Head right here. Cannon Beach actually is just off of the 101, so that does kind of make a difference. Towns that the 101 goes directly through do kind of tend to experience a little bit more congestion, like Seaside, like we just looked at. You do have to drive off the 101 to get into Cannon Beach. Now, with that being said, Cannon Beach is also one of the most, if not the most popular place for Portlanders to go. So it does get very, very crowded right here. The main drag is right along here, Hemlock Street. It's where you're going to find all of your restaurants. Not a ton of shopping here, lots of restaurants. This is more of kind of like an art gallery type of town. Home values here are going to be as expensive as anywhere else on the Oregon coast. You're averaging $900,000 to about $1 million. The average is going to kind of vary because there's not a ton of homes that usually come to market in Cannon Beach, so you don't usually see a lot of homes for sale here. There's maybe a dozen or so right now as we speak. And so this area does tend to get very busy. If you come here, you might have a hard time finding a place to park. And you can kind of see the density of people right here that are all coming for this Haystack Rock, which is one of the most, if not the most, iconic images along the Oregon coast. If you ever see, a rock like this along the Oregon coast, it's most likely in Cannon Beach. We do have 3 Haystack Rocks all along the Oregon coast. The second is in Pacific City, and the third is in Bandon. They do look very similar, but typically when you see an image like this somewhere online, it's usually from Cannon Beach. All right, we'll continue to head south now into, and all of this right here too, by the way, this is mostly residential. You find a few hotels right here. That's going to take us into Arch Cape. And this right here, it's going to be all residential as well, maybe a hotel here and there. But one thing I would say about kind of this stretch that's a little bit different than some of the other houses up north, you do have some elevation on these houses. Some of these houses are sitting 30, 40, 50 feet. There's a little bit of a cliff in this area. So if you did want to be close to beach but have some elevation, because you can't necessarily find that just anywhere along the Oregon coast, this is going to be your spot right here. So coming down the 101 Arch Cape, that takes us next into Manzanita. And don't want to miss Oswald West State Park, also considered one of the best state parks along the Oregon coast. There's a lot of them, so it's always hard to say which one's the best. Short Sand Beach, I think, actually made our list for best beaches you've never heard of. Really popular beach, but it is a beach that maybe flies a little bit under the radar. So it's usually pretty crowded when you go there, but it's not like a Cannon Beach, for example, where everybody's going to for like their day trips from Portland. So Manzanita is going to be actually very similar to Cannon Beach. You've got a main drag with a handful of restaurants, and it's also kind of like an art gallery type of town. A little bit more expensive in Manzanita, but not the same prices as Cannon Beach. Average home values here are going to be closer to like $750,000. One thing that's notable, I mean, this whole stretch right here is some of the best beach along the Oregon coast. A lot of people say that. I mean, really, there's probably none of these beaches are probably better than another. They're all very similar. They're all great beaches. One thing's a little bit different about Manzanita that you won't find, that you don't see. Like in Cannon Beach, just to the north, you do have a golf course right there. But Manzanita, all in all, kind of has a very similar vibe to Cannon Beach. Now, if you continue along the 101 here to Nehalem and Wheeler, now, these towns right here, these are going to be about as small as it gets. You won't see a whole lot of homes come to the market in these towns. They don't get a whole lot of tourism. Let me jump down here real quick and take a look at, show you kind of what a street view, map view looks like. I mean, this is probably the entire town of Wheeler, just right there. So these areas very small. Off the top of my head, I don't know what average home values are, but they're going to be something like 20-30% less than like a Manzanita. Just south of that, though, Rockaway Beach. Rockaway is a very popular spot. A lot of vacation rentals here, so definitely has a touristy feel to it. Although I would say how it's different is it's not like that art gallery type of town. It's just more of a laid back, kind of more traditional Oregon coastal town. So it's not going to be nearly as expensive as a Cannon Beach or a Manzanita. One thing that's kind of notable too that you'll definitely notice with Rockaway, there is a railroad. There's railroad tracks right here, and the Oregon Coastal Scenic Railroad goes from Rockaway Beach down here to Garibaldi. I do say similar things about this beach right here. Not that it's a whole lot different than Manzanita. Rockaway Beach is known for its beach. It's got a great beach. Again, it's probably going to be very similar to a lot of the beaches up north. Now, Garibaldi and Bay City, these are also pretty small towns. Popular thing to do when you go here is go crabbing. These towns right here, Bay City and Garibaldi, sort of similar to Wheeler and Nehalem. Not a whole lot of homes that are selling right there, and not a whole lot of tourism. People are just drawn by Rockaway Beach and then Manzanita, so these towns don't get a ton of traffic. If you're looking for something smaller, that might be for you. And then this is where we're going to kind of cut off right here at Tillamook. Now, Tillamook is a farming town and definitely has a farming town feel to it. We don't get a whole lot of people reaching out to us that want to move to the Oregon coast that are really looking at Tillamook, just because, like I said, it doesn't really have that coastal feel. If you do go through Tillamook, you certainly want to stop at the cheese factory. If you're going to stop somewhere, that's definitely the top place to stop. You're probably familiar with Tillamook cheese or Tillamook ice cream. You can find it in stores all across the country. If you did kind of want to be in this area, some hidden gems are Oceanside and Netarts. This is a great little town right here. There's a bunch of great properties over here that, as you can probably guess, have amazing views. There's another cool beach, Two Tunnel Beach, also I think made our list of Oregon beaches you've never heard of. The thing about being over here at Oceanside and Netarts, and you can also have a little bit of elevation too. Also, if you're worried about tsunamis, these houses are set back in the hills. They're going to be out. Most of these are going to be outside the tsunami zone. You can be within 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes, depending on how deep you are over here, to all of your shopping in Tillamook. So you can kind of have small town living over here, have some great views, and not be too isolated away from everything and not be too far away from shopping. So I hope that helps you to get a better feel for the Northern Oregon coast. Now, we have videos on just about all these towns. So if you want to dig into Astoria or Seaside or Manzanita, we have separate videos on our channel for all of these videos. If you have questions about these areas, if you're thinking about moving, if you're thinking about taking the next steps, you can call us, text us, email us, or always schedule a Zoom with us. You'll find the link below in the description. And if this video helped you, give us a thumbs up. Lets us know we're doing a good job. You can feel free to comment in if you have questions, or if you're familiar with the area, if you want to weigh in on the Northern Oregon coast, feel free to put a comment in there. We always welcome that. And if you want to see more videos like this and learn more about what it's like to live on the Oregon coast, make sure and hit the subscribe button and also tap the bell. And that way you'll be notified every time we drop a new video, which is every week. Until next time, take care, everyone.